welcome to the StudioPTBO podcast. We are back and we don't have a guest. This is so underwhelming.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. We got the Raptors. They're on a roll right now.
They are on a roll. They're gonna.
You think they're gonna
get to the finals? Yeah,
they're
gonna get to the finals, and I think they're gonna either beat Houston or Golden State, because that series is going down to the wire. So yeah, they are. So this guy's sort of a guest. He's more listening to us today.
He's more listening to us
learning
today.
about writing.
And
yes.
It's something that we really want to do over the next little while is, jump on, do these quick 10-minute podcasts just around anything marketing. We have our marketing hacks group where we're trying to provide massive value to business owners locally, and across Canada and really across the world. And we just want to talk today about copywriting. Maybe you can kind of give, the audience a little background on where you came from, just to kind of give them context specifically on your copywriting career.
Sure, I pretty much obsess about copywriting, and the macro being writing and communications, and that's getting your message very clear and concise. So I worked in the magazine industry in Toronto for 18 years, worked my way up. I was a chief copy editor, fact checker, ended up being editor-in-chief of a bunch of magazines, and that really involved creating an editorial lineup, but also being super concise in terms of cover lines, display copy, captions, pull quotes, things that really entice people to want to keep reading.
Totally.
And it's vital. A lot of people don't think through that part enough. They just think through the creation of, say, a photo codie or video, but they don't think through the setup.
And they're not even a lot of times when I see people writing online, I don't even really see them really thinking about the end consumer in mind. They're just writing to write.
Right.
So
it's lazy.
Yeah, it is laziness. Take some time to actually think about, what are the pain points of your audiences, and if it's a business owner, we recently shot a video around lead generation, and essentially the concept and even in the copy was about, are you a business owner out there that is constantly thinking about, how am I going to attract leads for my business?
Right.
And it's these questions, and it's are you the worry of potentially having to lay somebody off. These are all things that business owners struggle with, and I think that this comes out in copy. So how do you come up with these clever one-liners or these kind of hook lines, you would say?
Yeah, I should say earlier, it's more than just being lazy. It's not necessarily always lazy, it's inexperience.
Totally.
A lot of people are just, they didn't.
It's both.
Yeah, it's both. And they're inexperienced, and they need to learn how to do it. For me, I obsess over it. It's become pretty natural to me, pretty intuitive, but I call it radical clarity.
Totally.
So sort of following the David Ogilvy school, it's like tell the truth, but make it fascinating. So you really have to put yourself in the end consumer's mind and pretend you're that person. What would you want to hear about your brand or business, or what you're doing personally in the community? So a lot more thought has to go into it. Write lines down on a piece of paper, write them on an email. Don't just push it out there right away like verbal diarrhea.
Think about it. Think about it. It's
there's no rush. Be thoughtful.
Totally. We think about strategy, and we think about kind of how marketing actually works effectively. And it's interesting because when we first started out, it was a lot of a lot of things that we said was just document your day. But it's there's a lot more strategy, and there's a lot more thought that goes into documenting.
Yeah.
It's eventually it becomes natural, and eventually you just do all this stuff naturally. But at the beginning, I think there needs to be a framework to understand how to do that. So what is your framework when you're writing? You wrote recently 31 tips for business owners and entrepreneurs, essentially in that world. What went into the thought process of actually creating that?
Subject expertise.
Totally.
So always, it seems so obvious, stay in your lane. Write about what you know. And what I've known is from speaking a lot of events and being in communications and marketing and being an entrepreneur, I'm writing about what I know. I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. I'm not being a poser. Stay in your lane. So that's for starters. So say you're in the real estate industry, write about real estate. 31 tips, life advice after being in real estate for 20 years. Say you're in the car sector, 50 tips about being in the car. Just write about what you know.
Listicles, articles.
Listicles are great. So listicles really were created in the magazine industry, and that's what we used to do in cover lines. 57 reasons to do this, or 31 cars to check out.
And why the odd number?
The odd number studies have shown, great question, studies have shown that odd numbers do better than, or translate better with consumers than even numbers.
Really?
So
Okay.
I was always taught in the magazine industry to use odd numbers, and that's why you'll see even
That's
BuzzFeed.
translating to social as well now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of the
listic-
practices that you've learned in the magazine industry
I'm following
are
best
translated
practice 100%.
totally.
And BuzzFeed basically built their brand on traditional magazine listicle format. So listicles are easily digestible by consumers. So I do highly recommend this, the way I did the 31 list. They create somewhat of a hierarchy. The list can be somewhat arbitrary. It could be subjective, but create a list for people. And that actually makes it easier for you to write. It doesn't have to feel like an essay with a thesis and all
Totally.
that, right? So that's a good place to start as a brand if you're struggling with writing. The other thing I can say if you're struggling is find someone on your team who really knows how to write.
It's what we do.
Yeah, it's what we do.
It's like I come up with a lot of like sales copy and the ideas and think about the pain points, and I can do all that. I'm a marketer, but to actually articulate that on paper, I'm not the greatest at. That's why we have you. Kind of like come up with the idea and then you kind of take it. And,
I edit it. I edit
yeah.
it for clarity, communication. But you've gotten a lot better at it too. I also say to people, treat the tweet as a cover line, as a magazine cover line. So you've got 280 characters, but say it's 148 characters. And that becomes the foundation for a longer form post on Instagram or Facebook. It gives you the confidence that, okay, I'm just going to do the extended version on those platforms. But I think almost thinking of it as a tweet, as a magazine cover line, is the most important framework to get started past the writer's block.
Absolutely. So what do you take of Facebook long form copy? I really like it. I really like the fact that I can get my point out in text on Facebook. I can't do that as much on Instagram. I can on Instagram, but it doesn't translate, I think, as well as Facebook or in Twitter. I can't do it at all. What do you think of long form copy? I see a lot of people writing long form copy and publishing blogs directly to Facebook rather than going to a medium.com.
Yeah, it's a great
What do you
question.
think of that?
My answer to that goes back to the magazine industry again. So we were taught there that consumers want longer pieces and they want shorter pieces. So what we always had there was front of the book, short, snappy, sassy pieces ranging from 100 to 500 words. Middle of the book is called your feature well, longer articles. Back of the book, you go to shorter stuff again. So my answer is editorial mix, a mix of long and short. So you could have a great long form piece. My 31 list, for example, which you can find on our StudioPTBO Facebook page or our marketing hacks group.
LinkedIn, and we'll actually link it to this post as well.
Yeah.
So you can kind of get an idea of that as well. So we'll make sure in the copy that we put that.
So the 31, I could literally pick apart 31 pieces and put them as tweets. Each in number 7 could be one, number 9 could be one. So it's taking content and leveraging in different applications, right? So the rule of thumb is go all over the place, like test and learn, right? And you're going to see engagement.
100%, and that's the biggest thing I've been learning over the past I would say 6 months is the test to learn is super important, but the strategy is also super important as well. Thinking about who you're writing to, who's your end consumer. Our end consumer, if you're watching this, my hope is that you're a business owner, because that's generally from a marketing perspective. We work with mainly business owners or marketing managers. Those are kind of like, I would say, our two avatars within this industry. We work with marketing managers, we work with business owners. So how do we communicate? And this is something we learned early on, was we often talked about brand lift. And it was something that I don't think from a Facebook ads perspective was really communicating, as well as lead generation. That the context of leads in a Facebook ad standpoint translated a lot better, which is interesting, because you did ask the question in our Facebook hacks group, in a marketing hacks group, and some people said brand lift. I saw that the other day in the hacks group, but it wasn't translating on Facebook ads. So I'm curious to know what your thought process is with like context of wording of talking to a specific audience.
The answer is both.
Okay.
So brand lift is telling your story, storytelling, and who you are, your DNA. It's like getting your tagline out there, your mission, your ethos. Lead generation gets deeper. So it's taking through the funnel like you've done with videos and long form copy. So it's like finding your why, how you can help the business. So it's much more micro. To me, brand lift, a lot of it is it's macro because it's really giving context to the backstory of who you are as a person, whereas lead generation is really super micro and funnels and warming people up and creating comfort food more.
Totally. And, it's something that, we've really been focused on over the last little while. I think just this idea of, long form copy, brand, because you look at the biggest brands in the world, a lot of the content that they pump out is very brand focused. It's like, it's not direct sales.
No.
It's very brand.
Repetition too.
Totally. It
reps.
So let's talk about that for a second, because a lot of times when we create a video or say, for example, you create an article, a client or like a prospect, will, create the video or they'll create content and they'll only share it once. What
missed opportunity, huge missed
it is.
opportunity. So if you look at the most iconic ad campaigns ever, some not only last like months, some last years. So for instance, I'll go back to Buckley's, which I often go to. One of my favorite ad lines of all time was, and this literally rejuvenated this cough medicine brand, was Buckley's. It tastes awful and it works. Like it does. It tastes really awful.
It tastes like crap.
It tastes like shit, but it works. Like so that ad, that line, whoever wrote that line, I think it was a copywriter at a Toronto agency.
Good.
Turned the fortunes of that brand. So that's a repetition of that. Now the line can translate into different ad campaigns, right? Around that line, whether it's TV, radio, podcast, print, that line becomes iconic. So I'm a big fan of repetition, and some clients will say to us, "Oh, I can't repeat that.
I can't play this video once every month."
We play videos like sometimes dozens of times, and guess what? They see it on the 100th time we played it.
100%.
Right.
And the Hydra, so like, we're talking about like, our highlight reel. So our highlight reel is constantly playing, on YouTube pre-roll and YouTube in-stream ads. It's like that piece of content is driving traffic to our website,
right?
Which, on the 50th time that they watch that video, they might make the decision to say, I'm going to book an appointment with them. And I think it's both. I think you have to be conscious, like especially from a Facebook ad standpoint. I don't necessarily always like seeing the same ad over and over.
You have to have a
again.
mix. I'm saying
there has to be a mix.
So there has to be literally put an editorial calendar on the wall. Monday I do this, Tuesday I do this, Wednesday throwback Thursday, Friday I do this, and improvise on the fly if something comes up as well. So, but it's repetition of the video, but not every day ad nauseum. There's a fine line, right?
Yeah, and something we've been testing, and something I'm seeing like from coming back to copy is to ask questions on Facebook. So if you're a business owner, the this or that is really
how
effective.
Can I provide value for you? What is
or
your
even
pain
like
point?
we the other day I posted, do you prefer this or do you prefer that? Do you prefer business meetings on site? Or do you prefer business meetings off site?
Right.
Because it's giving you real time context based on your audience.
Right. And we're observing and listening and learning too.
Exactly.
By that. And we're reacting to that in terms of how we deal with clients.
You have to be reactive.
Yeah, an example of that, Cody and I used to deal with clients primarily on email, I'd say a year ago, and now it's primarily text. So we switched to that based on the needs of the client and asking. And we make the ask a lot with
You have to.
Yeah, you have to.
It's the only way that you grow.
And I have to say too, so back to writing and having a tagline is key. So if I go to an event at the, say, a Peterborough Chamber event or Innovation Cluster, and I say, Cody, like, what is your business? So what is StudioPTBO? You need to be able to tell me, literally, it's like, think of it as the elevator pitch for your brand.
It's a concise line.
Like 1 or 2 lines.
We're a full service marketing studio that helps to build and grow businesses.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can't tell me that within like 20 seconds.
You've lost me.
Totally.
And I'm not going to want to work with you because you don't have confidence in your brand, right?
100%.
And you should know your brand better than anyone else. So that's the first thing when clients come in and we work with them in this room and we're like, what is your tagline? A lot of them stumble out of the gates, but over time they develop a more concise, it comes down to radical clarity.
Because it's hard to market something that's not concise and clear.
Yeah, it's not tangible to the consumer.
Totally.
It becomes abstract and something like that. Yeah. And
well,
again,
that's something we always say, and Russell Brunson always talks about this a lot. If you haven't checked out Expert Secrets, it's and .com Secrets, hands down one of my favorite books. He talks about having one avatar, one audience. One avatar, one offer. So specifically, if you're targeting physiotherapists, you need to have that needs to be physiotherapist. It needs to be an offer. The offer needs to be concise advice, what are you offering them? Okay, I'm offering them a 10-minute consultation. Or I'm offering them a 30-minute strat session or a download for a PDF. And it's like you're talking to that one specific audience.
Yeah, and you're staying in your lane again. You're talking about what you know. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. And again, if you look at iconic brands like the Burger Kings and the Pepsis and now the Amazons, they repeat content all the time in messaging, right? So it's like, don't forget that the most iconic brands in the world that you consume and you buy from, they're front and center. They're not in hiding. So like, no matter where you get to as a brand, you cannot give up advertising, right?
Yeah. So, and like, I got one last thing I want to leave you with, like, kind of has to do with copywriting, more about social media. A brand shout out I want to give right now is Wendy's. They are crushing it on Twitter. They're the most savage, like, whoever's running the account, props to you from a brand perspective, because the amount of people that they chirp and like how witty they are with their content.
Yeah, and they're all starting to do it. Burger King's pretty good too. McDonald's is probably the weakest. They're all sort of trying
but Wendy's has stolen the show.
Yeah, they're all kind of trolling each other. But what's interesting about that is Wendy's is great at, they're fabulous at Twitter, but it's a different game on Instagram and Facebook.
100%
so you have to play native to your contextualized selling according to the demographic you're going after.
Exactly.
You could be going after teenagers on Snapchat. You could be going after millennials on Twitter. You could be going after 30-something. Like it's you just have to play to the platform again, right?
100%. And it's interesting, like I heard Gary Vaynerchuk said this the other day on a podcast. He said somebody was saying, well, my audience isn't on Facebook. And it, you know how Gary is. He's like, well, Rick. He's like, he's like, yes, they are. They might not be listed as CEO,
right,
but they're still listed as Rick Gervais or Ricky Tom on Facebook. They're just not identifying on Facebook.
They're watching. They're fine. You're going to find them somewhere. A lot of them are creepy and they're not necessarily saying anything.
Absolutely, they are. But they identify as, if they're a CEO. CEOs are on Facebook.
And if you're ever in trouble with writing, we offer those services here at StudioPTBO. Reach out to us, and we'll lend a helping hand.
Absolutely. Let's do a consultation. Let's figure out, really, what Neil will do, and with what our copywriters will do, is try to find your brand messaging and really try to find your voice. Who is your target audience? What is the message you're trying to get across? Similar to, we had that graphic design conversation. We try to follow the same formula every single time in order to make sure that we are really capturing, who you are, what you do, and why you do it, and who your target audience is, and try to speak directly to them.
100%. And radical clarity, and stay in your lane.
Absolutely.
Repetition.
Well, thanks Neil. Thanks for jumping on this podcast with me today. Just really wanted to talk about copywriting. And if you like this podcast and you found value in it, and you want us to do more marketing podcasts, give us a thumbs up down below, and just let us know if you want to cover anything else marketing related, whether it be Facebook ads, whether it be Instagram ads, YouTube pre-rolls, it could be graphic design, whatever you want in relation to marketing. We're just on a mission, like you said, to provide massive value to the business community and massive value to marketing managers more than anything. Just really help them, find clarity within their brand, and really help them attract more leads and convert them more leads to clients.
And join our marketing hacks group. StudioPTBO marketing hacks group. We have almost 300 people now, and it's a great supportive space, collaborative space. And
it's a space where you can ask a lot of questions more than anything. If you as a business owner are, you don't have the funds to, hire someone, or say, for example, you're trying to do this all yourself, and you're just all over the place. You're in all these Facebook groups, and you just really don't know where to start more than anything. This is a great place to ask questions and get advice from other business owners.
It's like a real-time focus group.
100% it is.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
great. It's qualitative focus group.
100% it is.
Yeah. And quantitative. It's going to build toward both.
Totally.
So, join that as well.
It's
been great.
It's been great. Well, thank you for tuning into the StudioPTBO podcast. Like this post, share it with some people, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play Music. Really appreciate it. If you saw value in today's episode, share this with 2 business owners, 2 marketing managers that might find this copywriting thing useful. And we'll see you soon. Great to see you, Neil.
Great to see you, Code.